The 26th day of the month is the most dangerous date in the modern world. For 30 consecutive days, my banking app told a story of impending collapse. By day 26, my balance invariably sat below $20. By day 28, one tiny surprise meant the predatory sting of overdraft fees and total psychological panic. If your life is measured by the distance between your last dollar and your next paycheck, you aren't living, you're surviving a slow-motion catastrophe. By the end of this video, you'll possess a high-precision calendar system designed to shatter this cycle. No raise, no side hustle, and no fancy budget app required. This is a structural re-engineering of your relationship with time to reclaim the 30 days the system stole from you. Before we start, what is the one recurring bill that causes you the most physiological stress every time it pops up on your phone? Tell me you are currently standing in a checkout line at a local supermarket. Behind you, a dozen people are waiting, their eyes fixed on their phones. Your palms are damp. As the cashier scans the final item, you are not thinking about the nutrition of your food. You are calculating. You are wondering if your bank's processing lag will allow this transaction to clear before a scheduled utility bill hits and drains the last $15 in your account. That moment of cold, sharp humiliation is not a financial problem. It is a failure of sovereignty. For 2.5 years, I existed within a 24-hour countdown. I was an operative for an internet service provider, tethered to a headset for 40 hours a week, selling my life energy for a fixed sum. On the surface, the spreadsheet of my life looked functional. My monthly net take-home was $2,873. My rent was $931. My secondary obligations, insurance, phone, and sustenance totaled approximately $2,600. Mathematically, I should have been ascending. In reality, I was drowning in the shallows. Most months concluded with less than $10 in my possession. The architecture of this trap is elegant and cruel. It is what I call the chronological treadmill. You are not broke because you lack capital. You are broke because your capital and your obligations are attempting to pass through the same narrow doorway at the exact same time. Every month followed a predictable script. The paycheck arrives on Thursday. By Thursday night, the rent has already claimed its portion. Friday, the vehicle payment is extracted. Saturday, you buy groceries. Sunday, a social obligation arises, and you tell yourself it is only $25. By the following Wednesday, your account sits at $43, while 4 automatic payments are still lurking in the shadows of the banking system. I was checking my banking app 3 times a day, not to track growth, but to monitor the decay. Late fees became a standard tax on my existence. A $42 bill would metastasize into $69 after penalties. In a single year, I paid over $500 in overdraft charges simply because my timing was off. I was not impoverished by my tastes. I was impoverished by the friction of the 30-day cycle. The turning point came when I realized that the elite do not operate on the same calendar as the average. The average person uses this month's money to pay this month's bills. It is a zero-sum game with no margin for error. The elite, however, have decoupled their income from their immediate needs. They have achieved what I call the one-month displacement. Before we move into the mechanics, we must address the internal resistance. Most people believe they need more income to escape. They are wrong. They are victims of what psychologists call mental accounting. They view money as a fluid that must be spent as soon as it enters the container. To fix this, we must build a liquidity dam. The first law of this new regime is the establishment of the future self escrow. I opened a secondary checking account at a local credit union, specifically choosing an institution that offered no debit card and no streamlined online shopping integration. This was not a savings account. It was a holding tank. I contacted my human resources department and redirected my entire direct deposit to this account. From that moment, not a single dollar I earned landed in an account with a card attached to it. I then constructed the bill ladder. In a physical notebook, I mapped 4 distinct columns. Column 1, income dates. Column 2, fixed obligations and their hard deadlines. Column 3, variable operational costs like food and fuel. Column 4, the future month. This was my strategic map. Most bills are not monsters. They are merely obstacles that all try to stand in the doorway at once. By mapping them, I could see the gaps in the formation. In month 1, I did not attempt a heroic $500 saving goal. That is the path to failure. I chose a single surgical target: groceries. My average expenditure was $317. I imposed a hard ceiling of $269. That $48 delta was not a windfall to be spent on a reward. On payday, I manually moved exactly $48 from the holding tank to a subsection labeled Next Month Groceries. I want to pause here for a moment of brutal honesty. If you are watching this and thinking that $48 is too small to matter, you are still thinking like the average. You are looking at the silt at the bottom of the river instead of the dam being built upstream. If you are tired of being a spectator in your own financial life, if you are done with the damp palms at the grocery store, comment the word sovereign below. Let the community know you are reclaiming your timeline. In month 2, I repeated the maneuver with fuel. My average was $122. I compressed it to $97. I moved that $25 difference into the next month fuel line. By the end of the second month, I had $73 tagged for a future that had not yet arrived. This is the danger zone. $73 does not feel like freedom. It feels like a rounding error. Most people quit here because they lack the stoicism to value a foundation before the house is built. Month 3 is where the system faced its first true test. I chose my phone bill, $83, due on the 12th. Instead of waiting for the auto pay to hit, I paid it 2 days early using funds already sitting in the holding tank. When my paycheck arrived a week later, I took that $83 and immediately fortified the future month space. This was a psychological shift. For the first time, a bill officially belonged to a future paycheck. But then the system struck back. My vehicle required an immediate $427 repair. In my old life, this would have been a catastrophic event. It would have triggered a cascade of credit card debt and 20% interest rates. This is the debt elephant that most financial gurus ignore. If you are carrying high-interest debt, your primary goal is to use the sliding bill method to create just enough air to stop the bleeding. I had to make a choice. I borrowed from my future month buffer. I watched my $156 progress vanish, and I had to dip into the current month's margins. It hurt. But it was a controlled burn, not a forest fire. I was not going into the negative. I was using a cushion I had built with my own discipline. This is the essence of being anti-fragile. The surprise didn't break me. It simply delayed the construction. In months 4 through 7, I stopped agonizing over the price of a coffee. The elite do not build wealth by skipping lattes. They build wealth by mastering the flow of capital. I focused entirely on the slide. Each month, I chose one more bill to move back into the previous cycle. Month 4, the internet bill of $91. Month 5, the insurance payment of $137. Month 6, the electricity at $119. By month 7, I was even sliding the rent, paying $50 extra toward the following month. These were not random savings. These were pieces of a future life being prepaid. By the end of month 7, my future month escrow had climbed to $983. I had not changed my profession. I had not won a lottery. I had simply changed the sequence of the meeting between my money and my bills. I had built a dam that was finally starting to hold back the flood. This leads us to a psychological phenomenon I call the suppression release. For years, you have been holding your breath. You have been suppressing the anxiety of the 26th day of the month. When you finally see that your rent is paid 15 days before it is due, something in your brain rewires. You are no longer the prey, you are the architect. I want you to be honest with yourself for a second. What is the one recurring bill that causes you the most physiological stress every time the notification pops up on your phone? What is that one number that feels like a weight on your chest? Share it in the comments. This community is a space for those who are done pretending everything is fine. By month 10, the transition was complete. Payday was no longer an oxygen mask. It was merely a replenishment of the reservoir. I could look at the upcoming 30 days and see that every essential rent, utilities, insurance, groceries was already funded by money that had been sitting in my account for weeks. The new paycheck was now aimed at the month after next. This is the true definition of financial freedom. It is not about having millions in the bank. It is about your life moving one full cycle ahead of your obligations. When you are a month ahead, surprises like a $400 car repair land on a cushion of air, not on the hard concrete of reality. To implement this starting tomorrow, you must follow the 4 laws of the displacement. First, map the month on physical paper. Apps are designed for convenience, but paper is designed for clarity. Write down every income date and every hard obligation for the next 60 days. If you don't know the exact numbers, pull your bank statements. Do not guess. Precision is the language of the elite. Second, select one variable category and only one to compress for the next 90 days. Do not try to slash your entire lifestyle at once. That is a recipe for a psychological relapse. Choose groceries or entertainment. Set a ceiling that is 20 to 30% lower than your current average. That difference is now legally owned by your future month. Third, create the structural barrier. If your employer allows for split direct deposits, use it. If not, manually move the funds the second they hit your account. The money must be moved before your brain has a chance to categorize it as available for consumption. Fourth, the slide. Every month, pick one fixed bill and pay it 1 week earlier than the previous month. Then use the corresponding amount from your next paycheck to reimburse your holding tank and tag it for the future. You are slowly migrating your bills from the current month to the previous one. This process is not fast. It is a slow, methodical march towards sovereignty, but the result is a total transformation of your identity. For 31 months, I was the man who ran out of money. Today, I am the man who has already paid for next month's life. That shift in identity is more valuable than any dollar amount. When you stop playing financial catch-up, you start playing a different game entirely. You start making decisions based on your values rather than your fears. As for those of you still watching, the ones who have stayed until the very end, here is the final hard truth that most people will never hear. The system is designed to keep you exactly 30 days away from ruin. The banking fees, the subscription models, the credit card rewards, they all rely on you living in a state of constant, mild urgency. When you break the cycle and move 1 month ahead, you become a ghost in their machine. You are no longer profitable to them. You no longer pay the late fees. You no longer need the high-interest payday loans. You have become untethered. The most dangerous thing you can do to the status quo is to be a person with a 30-day buffer and a calm mind. That is when you stop being a consumer and start being a builder. To confirm you have received this transmission and are ready to execute the displacement, comment the phrase, "I am awake." This is our secret password, a signal to the 1% that you are no longer sleepwalking through your financial life. If this analysis provided you with real, actionable value, perform the exchange, like this video and subscribe. We do not ask for favors. We engage in the mutual propagation of high-level intelligence. Share this with one person who is currently drowning in the 26th day panic. The ladder is in front of you. The columns are waiting to be drawn. Do not wait for a windfall that isn't coming. Move your first bill back this month, then do it again. Your future self is waiting for you to pay the debt you owe them. Click the video on the screen now to understand the next level of wealth preservation. Your journey into the 1% has just begun. We will see you in the next deep dive.